They call them sleep demons, perhaps associated with the supernatural. But what if these terrifying figures aren't paranormal at all? Good afternoon, my name is Yusha Kalra, and my presentation is on the affecting factors in sleep paralysis. According to Mariana Seuss Coates and Tara Young, professors at the University of Wisconsin School of Public Health and Medicine, sleep paralysis is the inability to move when waking up or falling asleep, and it lasts from a few seconds to a few minutes. It occurs during REM sleep when our brain is active but the body is paralyzed to prevent dream movement. In sleep paralysis, the system malfunctions, leaving the people conscious but unable to move, often experiencing intense fear, hallucinations, and even feelings of suffocation. According to this graph by Cotona Colombo and Nicola Salini, researchers at the Department of General Psychology, University of Padova in Italy, sleep paralysis impacts sociological and cognitive features. It can lead to being sexually assaulted, seeing your own body, visual hallucinations, and many other things. This ties into the false nostalgia stimulus source, which shows how memories can be disordered over time. Traumatic memories like those tied to abuse or PTSD can become blurred with dream experiences, making the sleep paralysis feel more surreal. Similarly, this ties into the Alzheimer's article from College Board of how dementia caregivers struggle with sleep disturbances due to emotional strain and disrupted sleep routines. This aligns with my research on how high levels of stress and psychological distress can contribute to sleep paralysis. Just like caregivers, individuals experiencing chronic stress, whether from caregiving, work, or academic pressure, are more likely to develop irregular sleep patterns, making them more vulnerable to sleep-related issues, including sleep paralysis. This leads me to my research question: to what extent do negative mental stimuli impact the chance of sleep paralysis in ages 18 to 28? There are three main negative mental stimuli: emotional distress, trauma, and a negative lifestyle. In emotional distress, there are three main factors. It is the stress, anxiety, and depression. According to a study done in Buenos Aires by Juan Manuel Duarte from the University of Buenos Aires Department of Health, a survey of 182 medical students was taken. Out of the 182 medical students, 74 had sleep paralysis, meaning 41%. And out of these 74 students, 56 of them related their sleep paralysis to anxiety. And this highlights how academic pressure, especially in high-stress fields, disrupts sleep. Anxiety doesn't just affect mental health, it interferes with sleep cycles, making individuals more vulnerable to sleep paralysis. Furthermore, a study conducted by the University of Wisconsin and Stanford on 866 participants found that 118 students exhibited depressive symptoms. They used the Zung Self-Rating Depression Scale, which ranged from 25 to 100. 50 or higher indicates clinical depression, with 50 to 54 indicating less severity, whereas 55 or higher reflects high severity. And as you can see here, 18.4% of them, like the sleep paralysis, had higher severity of depression, whereas only 7.2% had less, and with no depression, only 4.1% of the participants had sleep paralysis. This is also shown anxiety, with the people having anxiety having nearly double the amounts of sleep paralysis, with 7.5% versus 4.5%. And this data emphasizes the worsening depression correlation with increased sleep disturbances and the strong connection between anxiety and poor sleep, further supporting the idea that emotional distress heightens the vulnerability to sleep paralysis. Furthermore, trauma, especially childhood abuse, can significantly increase the likelihood of sleep paralysis. Individuals with a history of sexual assault or PTSD are more prone to these episodes because trauma disrupts sleep patterns and changes how the brain processes memories. A study done by Richard J. McNally and Susan A. Clancy from Harvard University found that some individuals view their sleep paralysis as resurfacing fragments of repressed trauma. This connects to Johan Norberg's false nostalgia, which explains how memories can be distorted over time. A Harvard study reported that 17% of participants linked their sleep paralysis to childhood sexual assault. And additionally, research by Maurice M. Ohion and Colin M. Shapiro shows that people with PTSD have significantly higher chance of sleep paralysis, with the people with PTSD have 7.4% chances, whereas 2.2% in non-PTSD in the survey that was taken. And these findings confirm that trauma-related sleep disturbances not only interfere with rest, but also make the brain more vulnerable to sleep disturbances, including sleep paralysis. Furthermore, a study conducted by Takafumi Manma, a professor at the University of Sabaka, found that irregular sleep schedules, late-night practices, and competition-related stress increase the chance of sleep paralysis. Researchers examined various lifestyle factors in their study, including bedtime, wake-up time, meal regularity, alcohol and caffeine intake before bed, part-time jobs, and screen usage after lights out. And they found that inconsistent sleep patterns played a key role in sleep disturbances. For example, students who went to bed after 1 a.m. had a higher chance of sleep paralysis, whereas those who went to bed before 11 p.m. had a lower chance of sleep paralysis. And those who woke up earlier, similarly, before 6 a.m. has a higher chance, whereas after 8 a.m. has a lower chance of sleep paralysis. And there were also other factors. For example, the study found that athletes with 47 evening practices per week reported more frequent episodes of sleep paralysis than those with fewer practices. Or late night jobs increased chances by 1.85%, and phone usage before bed increased chances by 1.6%. And these findings highlight how demanding schedules and psychological stress of students put them at a greater risk for experiencing sleep paralysis. Beyond student athletes, poor sleep in general significantly increases the risk of sleep paralysis. Irregular sleep schedules, sleep deprivation, and disrupted sleep cycles don't just affect daily functioning, they also affect your chance of sleep paralysis. And a study from the Inner Mongolia Medical University compared students with a good and poor PSQI scale. Those with poor sleep had it scored significantly higher across all aspects. For example, poor sleepers take twice as long to fall asleep than those with good sleep, and with a mean latency score of 1.35% versus good sleepers only had a 0.5. And these values are statistically significant with a p-value of less than 0.001%. And notably, those with poor sleep took more sleep medication, which can in turn increase your chance of sleep paralysis. To reduce the chance of sleep paralysis, especially in young adults, the most effective approach involves addressing the mental and lifestyle factors that contribute to it. Since emotional distress, trauma, and lifestyle factors all contribute to it, the solution should be just as layered. Regular mental health check-ins like therapy or school counseling can help manage anxiety, PTSD, and repressed trauma. Establishing a consistent sleep routine, limiting screen time before bed, and creating low-stress environments are all key to decreasing chances of sleep paralysis. Non-pharmacological strategies like mindfulness, journaling, and regular exercise have been shown to improve sleep quality and reduce nighttime disturbances. Ultimately, awareness is essential, and by recognizing how negative mental stimuli disrupt sleep, individuals can take proactive steps to regain control of their rest and in turn protect themselves from sleep paralysis. However, it is also important to note that sometimes these factors are out of our hands, and it's just for us to do our best to control what we can. Thank you.
Visha, got two questions for you. How valid and reliable were the sources that you used, and how do you know they were?
They were all very reliable because they were all peer-reviewed academic journals, and I made sure of that. Almost all of my sources came from EBSCO, and I got some from the National Institute of Health. And like I said, I made sure that they were all peer-reviewed academic journals within the last decade.
And what advice would you have for people that want to look at sleep paralysis in the future?
I would say to make sure that you understand the neurological aspects of this before you start, because there's a lot that goes into it, especially in the mind. And if you don't have a proper understanding before you begin, you're not going to be able to effectively understand how to prevent it and what truly causes it.
You were done, my friend.